thank you so much for joining today with the Take Charge, Live Well webinar. The webinar today is about diabetes and specifically what's your risk. To begin, let's start with some facts. So according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, almost 26 million people, or 8.3% of the population has diabetes. This was back in 2010. It was also reported that 7 million people were unaware that they had diabetes. Another 54 million people are at risk, meaning their glucose levels are in the pre-diabetic range. And shockingly, 1 in 3 people in the United States who are over the age of 20 have pre-diabetes, and only 1 out of 10 people are aware that they have it. Diabetes is the leading cause for kidney failure, non-traumatic lower limb amputations, and new cases of blindness in adults, as well as a major risk factor for heart disease and stroke. So due to the widespread of this condition, nationwide and worldwide, chances are that you know somebody with diabetes, you have diabetes yourself, or you are at risk for the condition. So today, during this presentation, we will provide an overview of what is diabetes, discuss ways to reduce your risk, give you some tips on how to manage diabetes if you've been diagnosed, and also talk about some available resources to you. We have a lot to get through today, so I'm going to do the overview of diabetes pretty quickly so we can get to some of the tips at the end. So to start, we'll just talk about a brief overview of what is diabetes. Diabetes describes a condition in which the body cannot make proper use of carbohydrate in food because the pancreas does not make enough insulin, or the insulin produced is ineffective, or a combination of both. Insulin is the hormone that helps glucose or sugar from the digestion of carbohydrate in food move to the body's cells where it is used for energy. When insulin is not present or is ineffective, glucose builds up in the blood. This is because insulin is the key which unlocks the door to the body's cells. Once the door is unlocked, glucose can enter the cell where it is used for fuel for energy so we can work, play, and generally live our lives. If there is no insulin present in the body, as in type 1 diabetes, there is no key to unlock the door and the glucose stays in the blood. When there is not enough insulin, the cell doors are only partially unlocked, or when there is lots of insulin in the blood but the lock doesn't work properly, sometimes referred to as insulin resistance, this is type 2 diabetes. There are several ways to diagnose diabetes. Each way usually needs to be repeated a second time to diagnose diabetes, and testing should be carried out with your healthcare, in your healthcare setting with a doctor at his office or lab. If your doctor determines that your blood glucose level is very high, or if you have classic symptoms of blood glucose and high blood glucose in addition to one positive test, your doctor may not require the second test. It's really up to your doctor to determine what is the best treatment for you and course of action. So it's always good to have that conversation with your doctor and figure that out together. Just to review, there are several types of diabetes. Type 1 was previously known as juvenile diabetes, and in this classification, the body does not make insulin. Insulin helps the body use glucose from food for energy, and people with type 1 need to take insulin every day. For type 2, which is previously called onset diabetes, which is the most common form of diabetes, it usually affects people later in life, and it is about 95% of the diabetes that is diagnosed. Only about 5% have type 1. And with type 2, the body does not make insulin well. So people often take pills or insulin. And then there's also pre-diabetes, which is often diagnosed, or sometimes not diagnosed, but it's before you develop type 2 diabetes. They almost always have the pre-diabetes or blood glucose levels that are higher than normal, but yet not high enough to be diagnosed with diabetes. So if you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, we have some tips later in the presentation that I think will be helpful to you. There are about 79 million people in America that have prediabetes. Finally, gestational diabetes may occur in women who are pregnant. It raises her risk of getting another type of diabetes, mostly type 2, later in life, and also raises the child's risk of being overweight or getting diabetes. There are some complications which can occur if you have diabetes, and here are a few that are listed. Diabetes is a leading cause of new cases of blindness among individuals aged 20 to 74 years old. Also, dental health, which you might not think about when you think of diabetes. Almost 1/3 of the people with diabetes have severe periodontal disease. There's also heart disease and stroke. People with diabetes have heart disease death rates about 2 to 4 times higher than adults without diabetes, and the risk for stroke is 2 to 4 times higher among people with diabetes. We also have on here kidney disease and kidney failure, neuropathy, foot complications, and amputations as other conditions of diabetes. As far as the cause goes, you might be wondering what causes diabetes. There is no one cause. However, we do know that contributing factors such as poor diet and sedentary lifestyle increase the chances of developing diabetes. So you may be wondering, am I at risk for diabetes? So let's go ahead and review some of the risk factors. When you think of risk factors, there are generally 2 categories, non-modifiable and modifiable. The non-modifiable factors, meaning there is nothing that we can do to change them, are age. As we get older, our risk increases. Gender, men are at higher risk than women. Ethnicity and race, African Americans, Hispanic, Latino Americans, American Indians, and some Asian Americans and Native Hawaiians or other Pacific Islanders are at particularly high risk for type 2 diabetes and its complications. Family history, it's always good to know family history. If your mother or father or sibling had diabetes, chances are your risk is increased as well. Additionally, if you've been previously diagnosed with gestational diabetes or previously diagnosed with high blood pressure, those here are listed as non-modifiable because they've been previously diagnosed, so we can't change a previous diagnosis. So we're going to focus on the modifiable risk factors for the presentation here today, and those are physical activity and weight. I'm sure most of you have heard that increasing physical activity has a variety of health benefits, including decreasing your risk for type 2 diabetes. And with weight, living at an unhealthy weight does not only increase your risk for type 2 diabetes, but also for heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, and unhealthy cholesterol. The good news here is that losing even just 10 to 15 pounds can make a difference. So we'll talk a little bit more about weight management and exercise on the next slide. So on the previous slide, we discussed the non-modifiable and the modifiable risk, and I don't want you to be discouraged. I know the non-modifiable risk list was a little bit longer than the modifiable one, but I want you to realize you can make a difference. So as previously mentioned, losing weight can decrease your risk. Extra fat can make your body resistant to action of insulin. Losing weight improves insulin's activity, which reduces blood glucose levels. Research suggests that people at high risk for diabetes who lose as little as 5% of their body weight, or if you weigh about 200 pounds, that would be 10 pounds, can prevent the it can prevent or delay onset of the condition. The most effective approach, experts say, is a structured weight loss program. And through Take Charge of Well, you are welcome to work with a health coach if you're trying to lose weight to add some more structure to your routine. Regular exercise, as mentioned on the last slide. Studies show that activity improves the body's response to insulin and helps to lower blood glucose levels. So a good goal is to aim for 30 minutes of moderate activity, such as brisk walking nearly every day. Also, implementing strength training. Increasing lean muscle mass can help lower your insulin resistance. Researchers found that for every 10% increase in muscle mass, people's prediabetes risk fell by 12%. So make sure that if you do implement an exercise or strength training program, you do so responsibly. Believe it or not, sleep may also be beneficial. Researchers found that long-term sleep deprivation may increase the body's insulin resistance, especially in people who are genetically predisposed to diabetes. So I know it's tough to get sleep. We're all busy. Researchers suggest a goal of trying to get at least 7 hours a night. And then also stress. As many of you know, decreasing or managing stress is important for a variety of reasons. Chronic stress is a risk factor for other major diseases as well as diabetes. The body releases hormones that increase the blood sugar when it senses stress. So although the rush may help somebody feel better in the moment, it can be damaging in the long term. So practicing some simple techniques like deep breathing techniques, meditating, and listening to calming music may help to control stress hormones and lower blood sugar. Making good nutrition changes or choices also are great next steps to take, and so we'll talk about those here. So there's some tips listed here on the slide, so it's good to keep these in mind when you're making your nutritional choices. Choosing whole grains, such as whole wheat breads, pastas, barley, corn, oats, over the refined ones can help improve insulin sensitivity. Don't skip meals, including breakfast. I'm sure you've heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Research suggests that eating breakfast increases insulin effectiveness in lowering blood glucose levels. Additionally, eating regularly spaced meals has benefit on insulin response. Eating good fats. There's a lot of talk now about good fats and bad fats. The term good fats refers to the unsaturated fats as opposed to the saturated or trans fats, which are referred to as the bad fats, if you will. Some examples of good fats to use when cooking are plant-based oils like olive oil or safflower instead of vegetable oil. Another food that contains the good fats are avocados, nuts, nut butters, and fish. Omega-3 fatty acids are found in foods like oily fish, such as wild salmon, sardines, and this may help improve insulin sensitivity. Eating more fiber is good too. Also, cinnamon can be beneficial. Fiber aids in digestion and curbs sugar spikes that occur after the meals by slowing the flow of glucose or sugar into the bloodstream. And cinnamon has nutrients that help the insulin to do its job more effectively. So here, that's a simple thing you could do is to sprinkle cinnamon in your morning coffee or mix it into oatmeal if you're eating that for breakfast or as a snack. And then finally, vitamin D, which is known as the sunshine vitamin. Sometimes our studies have shown that people with vitamin D are less likely to develop type 2 diabetes. So you can get this by when you're outside getting the vitamin D, but I know it's tough here in Ohio. So they do have a supplement, but if you take any type of supplement, even if it's a dietary supplement, we do recommend that you follow up with your doctor. So now that we have reviewed some risk factors for diabetes, you may be wondering what is your personal risk. If you're interested in assessing your personal risk for type 2 diabetes, you can visit the American Diabetes Association website at diabetes.org to take a free risk quiz. If you'd like a paper version, that is available as well upon request. So diabetes often goes undiagnosed because its symptoms seem harmless. Recent studies have shown that early detection of diabetes symptoms and treatment can decrease the chance of developing complications of diabetes. So if you have any of the symptoms listed here, make sure to see your doctor right away. if you've been recently diagnosed with diabetes, we'll discuss some next steps you can take. Or if you know somebody who's been diagnosed with diabetes too, it's good to know the next steps so you can be a support for them. The first step is to take a breath. The good news is that diabetes is manageable. Many of the suggestions previously discussed on how to reduce your risk for developing diabetes also apply to managing diabetes. Next, you'll want to work with your doctor to develop a care team. We'll discuss this in more detail in some upcoming slides. Once you've developed your care team, you can work with health professionals on it to develop a plan of action so that you can start to continue to live a balanced lifestyle. And finally, educate yourself. Become familiar with the research and don't be afraid to ask questions. Your doctors and members of the care team are there to support you. So as mentioned on the last slide, developing a care team is a great way or first step to take to manage diabetes. And remember, when you develop your care team, you are the most important member on your team. You're the one that's affected with diabetes, you're the one that cares for every day, and you're the only one that knows how you feel and what you're willing and able to do. You should be receiving diabetes care from a team put together by you and your doctor. Diabetes is complicated. Your doctor alone cannot be an expert in every area, so this is good to have a team. Some people on your team may include the eye doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a dietitian, a diabetes educator, and an endocrinologist. Also, family and friends are important too for support. Maintaining a balanced lifestyle is vital to managing diabetes. So here's some principles to keep in mind. Create a nutrition plan. Think about what you are eating, when to eat, and what quantity to eat. Working with a dietitian or other health professionals can prove to be beneficial when creating a meal plan. I know it can be pretty intensive at the beginning and overwhelming, so it's always best to work with a professional if you're able to. Although on the next slide, we will discuss some tips to keep in mind when you're creating your nutrition plan. And then as previously mentioned, increasing exercise can help to reduce the risk of developing diabetes, but it can also help to manage diabetes. And we also discussed weight management and its relationship to diabetes risk. As you guessed it, it's also an important factor to managing diabetes. So following a nutrition plan and exercise regimen can help with weight management. And then taking medication as prescribed. It is imperative to managing diabetes. Make sure to discuss any medications you have with your doctor and pharmacist. And then finally, checking glucose levels are beneficial so that you can track and look for trends within your glucose level and adhering to scheduled appointments. I can't tell you how important this is. So here are some nutrition tips to keep in mind when you're working to try to eat a balanced nutritional plan. Limiting sugar. Start looking at the nutrition table on the food items to see how much sugar is in the item you are considering to eat. A lot of times we think foods might not be high in sugar, but when we read that nutritional label, they can surprise us sometimes. Eating smaller portions. Using a smaller dinner plate, such as a 9-inch plate, can help to prevent from putting too much food on our plates. We have a tendency to eat whatever food is in front of us, so using a smaller plate can really help us with that. And here's a trick. When you are putting food on your plate, fill half of it with vegetables and then split the other half into 2 quarters. Fill 1 quarter with lean proteins such as fish, skinless poultry, beans, or tofu, and fill the other quarter with a grain or starch-based side dish, preferably a whole grain food like brown rice, whole wheat pasta, or a slice of whole grain bread. Additionally, limiting going back for seconds or waiting approximately 20 minutes to go back for seconds if you do decide to go eat some more. Comparing carbs. Research shows that the total amount of carbohydrate in a meal or snack is what most affects the blood glucose levels. So it's not really the source of the carbohydrate, starch, or sugar. It's important here we go. It's important to not only realize that sugar-free does not necessarily mean carbohydrate-free. So make sure to compare the total carbohydrate content of even a sugar-free food when you're trying to choose what item to eat. And then pick the right white bread. A lot of times we like the taste and the feel of the white bread, but it's not the best for us. So a lot of companies now are making a white bread that is more nutritious called whole white bread. So when you're looking at bread products, read the ingredient list and try to stay away from anything that says refined, because that's not a whole grain product. And don't be fooled by faux whole grains, such as like a brown colored bread or cracker or multigrain that's popular. You always want to read the ingredient list and look for something that has the term whole grain in it. And then sip smarter. A lot of times we don't think about the drinks that we're choosing, but sometimes we have a really sugary drink and we might not realize that. A lot of times sugar is in alcohol too, so something to keep in mind. Just a 12-ounce can of regular soda, for example, contains 150 calories and 38 grams of carbohydrate, which is the equivalent to 9 teaspoons of sugar. So as an alternative, try to drink iced tea or seltzer water with a splash of cranberry juice or lime or something like that to spice it up. And then finally, as I mentioned, educate yourself. You are your best advocate for your health. I can't say that enough. Keep up with the current research on diabetes management and work with your doctor to provide ongoing care that works for you. So here are a couple risks or myths that people think of when they think of diabetes. Myth 1, people with diabetes can't eat sweets or chocolate. If eaten as part of a healthy meal plan or combined with exercise, sweets and desserts can be eaten by people with diabetes. They are no more off limits to people with diabetes than people who do not have diabetes. Myth number 2, eating too much sugar causes diabetes. Diabetes is caused by a combination of genetic and lifestyle factors. However, being overweight does increase your risk for developing type 2 diabetes. So eating a healthy meal plan and regular exercise are recommended to manage your weight. Myth number 3, people with diabetes should eat special diabetic foods. As we talked about, a healthy meal plan for people with diabetes is the same for what everyone else should be eating. Low fat, especially in saturated and trans fat, moderate in salt and sugar, and meals based on whole grain foods, vegetables, and fruit. Diabetic versions of sugar-containing foods offer no special benefit. They still raise blood glucose levels and are usually more expensive and can have a laxative effect if they contain sugar alcohols. Myth number 4, if you have diabetes, you should only eat small amounts of starchy foods such as bread, pasta, and potatoes. Starchy foods are part of a healthy meal plan. Whole grain breads, cereals, pastas, rice, and starchy vegetables like potatoes, yams, peas, and corn can be included in your meal plans and snacks. The key is portions. Myth number 5, fruit is a healthy food. Therefore, it is okay to eat as much of it as you wish. Fruit is a healthy food that contains carbohydrates, fiber, and lots of vitamins and minerals. It needs to be included in your meal plan. Talk to your dietitian about the frequency of the fruit you eat. Okay. So here are some available resources to you through the Take Charge Live Well program. The Diabetes Prevention Program is a resource offered to you through Take Charge Live Well. As we discussed, people without intervention are at risk for developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, or stroke in less than 10 years. So this is a great program. It's a 16-week coaching program which is led by a trained lifestyle coach to help you manage or change your lifestyle to make a difference in preventing diabetes. Learning objectives include nutrition, getting started with physical activity, overcoming stress, and staying motivated to make a lifestyle change. This program is offered in a variety of settings, including a local YMCA location, at your work site, or online. Note the program is offered through United Healthcare. In order to participate, you must carry United Healthcare's insurance through the state of Ohio. If you are interested in participating in the diabetes prevention program, spouses and employees and dependents over the age of 18 are able to participate, and you need to meet one of the following criteria. Have been diagnosed with prediabetes from nurse or doctor, and a body mass index greater than 25. Have a testing result of fasting glucose plasma between 100 and 125 with a BMI greater than 25, or have a testing result of a hemoglobin A1C between 5.7 and 6.4 with a BMI greater than 25. As previously mentioned, participants must carry United Healthcare insurance. Feel free to check ohio.gov/TCLW for more details on this program. And to sign up for the Diabetes Prevention Program, you can call United Healthcare at 888-688-4019, or you can enroll on-site at an on-site screening with a YMCA representative. For members who currently have diabetes, the Take Charge Live Well program offers a diabetes management program. Through this program, members are eligible for free diabetic supplies and medications. It is the only required guideline for the service is to have had an A1C test within the last 12 months. For those that meet the guidelines, certain supplies and durable medical equipment and medication are provided at no copay and no deductible. Certain values for each test are not required, only that you've had the test. If you have not had a test or an A1C test in the last year, members can still receive their medications and durable equipment under the normal copay and provisions with the state of Ohio benefits. For more information on that, feel free to check out the Take Charge Live Well website at ohio.gov/TCLW. Another great resource to you is the Wellbeing Connect portal. Here you can track exercise, nutrition, weight, medication, and appointment adherence. And we also have different recipes and meal plans that are available to you. In order to get to this section of the portal, simply go to Resources and Tools tab, and then you'll want to choose Recipes and Menus and select the Diabetes Meal Plan. There's a whole host of meal plans that are available to you. So if Diabetes and Meal Plan isn't your first area of interest, you can do something else. There's like weight loss meal plan, healthy meal plan, portions, meal planning for two. There's a bunch listed there, so I encourage you to check it out. They'll have, with the meal plan, there's a list of foods that you need for all of your meals each day, and then there's also links to recipes that are healthy and delicious. So I know we're really close on time today. I want to thank everybody for joining.